Baker with TradeGate Hub, powered by TradeView Markets, and our special guest today is Danny Jisa. Danny, welcome to TradeGateHub.com. Appreciate you being here.
Great to have you, Coach.
Okay, and Danny is the head of CBOE Futures Sales and Client Engagement, and I want everyone to take a look at the disclaimer and reinforce it that past performance is not indicative of future performance, and only risk capital should be used. Suitability is important, so that means it's money that you could afford to lose. You know what I used to do, Danny, when I was a broker? I'd tell people, you see that 25K check you're going to deposit into your account? I want you to imagine you struck a match and lit it up. And if that bothers you, it's not risk capital.
Yeah, no, that's a good approach.
Yeah, so anyway, I think they understood what they were doing after that. So Danny, before we get to your presentation, you have experience across all global markets, North America, Europe, Asia, and how did you end up at the CBOE? Tell us a little bit about that story and your journey to the CBOE and your current position.
Sure. So I started. Thanks for having me. Start off there.
Great to have you.
The second time guest.
Also great to have Mike V co-host and have Jason and John. Feel free to jump in anytime, guys. Go ahead.
Good morning, Danny. I want to say is Danny's a second time guest, which gives him more credibility to TGH that we're doing something right. With Danny's dossier behind him, so it's an honor as well.
Danny, is there still a trading floor on CBOE?
There is actually. We just opened one up. We opened up a new trading floor, Coach, last month.
Wow.
It's at the Board of Trade where I started, actually. It's really cool.
144 Jackson?
That's right. So we opened it up last month. So we've got SPX, we got and VIX in there. But SPX, we're still doing 30+% of the volume on the floor with 2 million ADV a day in SPX. I mean, it's beautiful. Well, next time you're in Chicago, you got to come down because
last time it was a ghost town. It was a bowling alley, and it's so great to see Open Outcry 2.0. I know that when the markets were falling apart and just gapping on things that it never done before, like after earnings, shares losing 20% overnight, that I said, boy, I wish we still had market makers to be there in between the machines to have bids and smooth this out. So, all right. So I interrupted you, I don't know, about 10 times. How'd you end up at CBOE?
I got 6 kids, Coach. So I'm interrupted on a daily basis.
Your patience is a virtue. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's tough sometimes. I try. Yeah. So I started off my career as a runner at the Merck. In between I was at college at University of Dayton in the back month Eurodollars, and did the summer there. Then did the summer at the grain room as a runner, and then was a clerk in the bond room in the 2-year Treasury pit. Worked my way up there to become a local member at the Board of Trade, trading across the curve, 2s, 5s, 10s, 30s, basis trading with Cantor, the whole deal, running up and down the stairs to make the call. And then as things transitioned more towards the screen, a friend of mine was starting a trading group upstairs in the Board of Trade. And so I left the floor and went upstairs to point and click, trading pretty much around the clock. We even had something called Project Day back in the day. I don't know if you remember that. I would watch the markets overnight. While
early Globex days.
Yeah, that was that was Project Day. I would watch the markets for the local that I was working for up in our clearing firm. At the time was Lawrence Bonafito. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but that's who I cleared, and it was dead. I mean, not much would go on overnight, but we'd watch it, and I'd simultaneously watch reruns of Hunter and Madlock on TV while I was watching. But as when I left the floor to go upstairs, we traded point and click on the screen. Then that kind of morphed into more auto spreader trading, and then that went more programming and primarily heavy in rates, but also did some some energies and you know, we grew up about 100 guys here in Chicago. Then rates went pretty much to zero, so we lost some edge there and started to think a little bit outside the box, and some opportunities came up at CBOE, who, you know, which is a great company, and has become more of a disruptor, which I liked, and I liked the kind of technology approach they're going at with the market, but then also staying true to the bread and butter of the floor, right? As we see with us opening a new floor and a full-fledged commitment there by CBOE and its members. But so yeah, so now I've kind of pulled that experience, and I'm working at CBOE to help build up the future side of the exchange.
You know what's great? Yeah, you know what's great is you were fortunate. I was fortunate. I was a runner at the CME too before, you know, I got my Series 3 and worked my way into having a seat IOM division. But you know what? There isn't a place for young traders to learn. We were able to talk to some of the best traders in the world down there and watch them and know, and just being in that type of environment was such an edge to learn the business. You know, I really think that younger traders right now should think about going to Chicago and spending some time on this new CBOE floor to rub elbows with professionals. It could be something that really shapes your trading career, and it wasn't available until you guys did it.
Yeah.
Kudos.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate it. I mean, it's been exciting to watch. And
how many members you have down there on the floor trading?
On the floor, there's, I think right now we've got about 300-400 people on the floor right now. So
nice.
300 to 500, but yeah, but it's
how much is a seat? How much is a seat?
Well, it's mainly brokers that are down there right now, so it's
okay.
Not, you know, but
okay, no locals.
There's a couple, but mainly brokers. But it's you know, it's great to see. I mean, really going back there and just where I began my career. It's full circle. It's really you're right.
We all, to a degree, we all are.
Yeah.
To some extent. Are the prices of the seats going up or down at least?
Well, it's different than.
I know it is. I know. I was just gauging it. You know. It's like it's like the used Rolex indicator. I was just curious of how the market's looking.
I could see Mike would have been like a pretty good pit trader.
No, listen, straight up, I'm not going to lie. At one point, Danny has how his career started like I wanted. A seat was a seat was everything. I mean,
everything.
Forget about it.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything.
And you could leverage buying a house with it. You know,
you didn't care in your area what anybody did. It was either if he owned a seat, you didn't ask anymore. Usually, if people were a doctor, you'd be like, "What type of doctor?"
He's got that yellow badge.
If somebody owned a seat, you just left it there. All right.
Hated to put on that gold runner's jacket, didn't you, Mike?
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, anyway,
Coach, it's funny you say that. I know we'll get back.
Please discover me. Someone discover me.
Well, it was at the Merc. You're right. Everybody had those ugly mustard colored coats, and now it's like when I left the Merc to go to the Board of Trade, the green room before I went to the bond room, I was like, I can't wait to get a different color coat. And what did I do? I worked for like Bungie. They had those ugly yellow coats. Were the only ones. Really?
The uglier the coats, the more coveted they were.
Oh yeah, it was like the Warriors, the movie. I mean,
that was what I wanted.
Yeah, it was the last caste system in the industry. Anyway, so why don't we get to the meat of you know, why we're here? You and I, we could talk about war stories forever. Let's talk about the war happening in the markets and how the VIX can be used appropriately and the right times to be in VIX. And you know, I believe that John's going to show some slides, but my burning question is this, Danny, and I bet you were thinking about this. What a difference 7 months makes.
Yes.
Right. But we had a very severe decline in the market with recoveries and then lower lows. And there were days we were down 200-300 handles, and there were those wild gap lower openings. And it didn't pay as much to be long VIX in any fashion as it did just to be short spiders or anything just to be short the market. Now, was the VIX giving us a signal that maybe things are okay? Or is it possible that after this rally terminates, that the capitulation that was never delivered by VIX will be delivered then? But didn't you feel it was really underperforming the weakness of the market?
You know, and again, these are my views, not
Right.
CBOE's, but yeah, I mean, I think both of your points are valid. I mean, I think that it also kind of speaks to VIX futures and VIX itself, that, you know, we did have those big moves back in 2018, but I think there's the mix of participants have kept it more stable of a trade for people to hedge their portfolios, like the slide you had before, where we see some of these big moves. Yes, we didn't see the giant spikes that we had in VIX, but at the same time, that's okay, because it gives people more confidence in, like you said, the market and like what that's signaling.
It was an orderly decline, even though to me it felt disorderly, but the market felt it was orderly.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that this is a different type of market, though. I'm kind of putting back on my interest rate hat. I mean, we are in a market that hasn't been, we haven't seen, you know, we've been at zero interest rates for so long leading up to now. You know, we've got a Fed meeting today, but the bond market kind of tells a story too. And I think that that's where a lot of people have been watching. We talked about, you just mentioned young traders, like they just think the market goes straight up, right? And nothing else happens. And the Fed will always come to the rescue. But I think that what we're seeing finally now is the bond market and what's happening with inflation, what's happening with potentially GDP tomorrow, and are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? How fast are we overheating? How fast are we not? I think the bond market across the whole treasury curve is telling a story and giving hints to what's happening in the rest of the market with equity.
Even junk.
Sure. I mean, look, I mean, there's this week with earnings, we've had just a mixed bag of like what's with Walmart and then Target. I mean, you know, there's so much indecisiveness in the market, and as traders like you, Mike, and I, we love that, right? This is what we want. This is what we've been waiting for 10 plus years, where it's not just like, okay, on a little spike, I'm gonna sell premium and just like close my eyes and hope it's not this isn't like hot potato, right? Like this is a market where VIX futures, you really can see the use cases for it, but at the same time, finally trade it actively intraday. And we're starting to see new market participants coming into the market, not just relying on the exchange traded products that are tied to VIX, but also trading it differently against other products across different exchanges, which that's the way the market should work. Like we should all be able to look at everybody sees things differently, but we should all be able to hedge things accordingly. But VIX is one of those trades that is normally, pure. I mean, most of the time inversely related to what's happening in the equity market, where you can
pretty pure.
Right. It's very straightforward, where, you know, as a bond guy like myself and now a VIX guy, but like is, you know, a lot of things are head scratchers. There's gonna be a lot of people scratching their heads after this announcement today. Is it 3/4 of a point? Is it 50? What's the forward guidance?
Right.
It usually doesn't happen until 24 hours later, 48 hours. It kind of shows its hand, but like with VIX, it's pretty cut and dry. And I think it's easy for participants, big and small, why we have a big VIX, why we have a mini VIX, to participate in and hedge accordingly and more precisely with maybe the smaller contract for CTAs. Or
do you have mini VIX futures?
So we've got a mini VIX that we just launched at the end of 2020. The timing was great with what was going on in the market.
Actually, we're going to trade the mini VIX today. Excuse me. We're going to show an example of that.
Yeah.
We're going to trade live the mini VIX.
The liquidity is tied closely, obviously, with big VIX. The markets are closely correlated, tick wide, and all that market across. We've got 6 months listed right now, and we'll slowly build out that as needed. But it's been a great little tool for big and small investors, quite frankly, to to hedge a little bit more precisely and scale into their positions at a wider pace instead of like if they're not comfortable with the big VIX, it's 1/10 the size, so
Right.
it works out. I mean,
Any
at the end of the
spread
day,
trading there, Danny?
yeah, so a lot of people
You know,
turn
with
calendars.
backwardation and all the stuff that
Sure.
happens with VIX?
Sure. Yeah, and we've been in a mixed bag of backwardation, contango, obviously we're in contango more than not, but we have had plenty of days this year already where, more than, any other, decade where we're in backwardation, which is healthy for the market. It shakes it up. I think it gives opportunity to people to look at things differently. And I think the participants, the younger traders that you're talking about, and that, burning that 25 grand and not need to understand how volatility works. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart, but there's definitely some insurance plays that people are starting to use to implement and sprinkle positions they have on with VIX futures, which is great because I think that builds out the whole ecosystem of our futures with VIX that's neat.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, what I also took from the last side, I think like a trader, I appreciate that, is the VXM move is more responsive on a short-term price, a short-term fluctuation than the other. Is that right, Danny?
Yeah.
Going back to, so that's, I write that, I'm looking to take advantage of the product. Another thing
We know what an action junkie you are, Mike. Things that move the fastest.
Can you go back to the other slide?
No.
Yeah, look at that.
Go ahead. I was just kidding. Go ahead.
No, I'm serious.
John.
This is what I looked at. The bottom, it says
I
the
know.
front month VXM futures are often more responsive to big price changes. We have a Fed decision now, in 2.5 hours. So I wrote that that's what I'm in. That's what I'm interested in. Not to say I'm gonna go in.
And Mike, it's not, and Coach, it's not just like, I mean, look, it's all about central banks right now. We had the ECB came out last month. We had Bank of Canada come out for a full point. I mean, stuff's happening overnight, which is great because we're 24/5 basically almost trading VIX overnight. So you can take advantage of those moves when there's certain announcements globally to trade VIX futures and take advantage of that. And they're liquid overnight.
Yeah, because you can't do that with the VIX. You have to wait till the next day.
No, they're liquid. They are. I watched them.
Yeah, I mean, the VIX, what they have ETFs, etc.
Oh, right.
Derivative products of VIX.
You can, you don't have to wait until the morning.
Yeah.
Danny,
2022. You should be able to trade when you want, how you want.
I have one more question, and it's going back to what Coach said about the VIX being suppressed, for lack of a better term, and everybody should think it'd be higher. Pardon. Is this maybe the reason because the VIX futures are more prevalent now, or they're offered more, where it's not so much a crowded trade where there's only one VIX product to drive it higher in some herd mentality?
Yeah, I think it's keeping it honest. I think it's a good point.
You know what I mean, Coach? It's more. There are more
Great
outs
point.
within that specific derivative, not to make it crowded in one product to drive it higher.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is what you want. You want different.
Yeah, that's what I think, but I don't know if I'm
overthinking the market. That's how markets work, right?
How about volume, Danny? Has it been growing from the inception, average daily volume?
So the in mini VIX or big VIX?
Both.
Yeah, so,
probably more in mini, right?
Yeah, so many were around like 10,000 ADV a day. Obviously that fluctuates, but it's again, it started at a time during high volatility where people are starting to get it. People get nervous, but I think they're starting to learn about why you use VIX. It's more of an insurance play for a lot of people too, to be long, to manage their equity positions, right?
Right.
I have
stay in those positions longer, and then start to see it in a different way where they can trade around the front end, the back end of mini VIX and scale into it, and now start to trade across exchange and trade it within different spreads like E-minis, mini Dow. You can butterfly it. I mean, stuff's moving around, so it just takes time for people to soak things up and see how something trades in general, right? So we're getting through that cycle, and we're excited about the direction, and like the customer participation has spiked. Big VIX customer participation started to spike. We're we're north of 200,000 ADV a day. There's some days where we do 600. So, I'd love to see it. I mean, I'm the ultimate optimist, but double an ADV before, as we build out this
Yes.
ecosystem. And look, the Fed's not going to take their foot off the pedal anytime soon. The markets are going to continue to be volatile, which people are going to start to look for protection, and that's VIX futures and some of our other products.
And it looks like the CBOE with the slides that John is showing has a great resource of education for people to learn.
Sure.
Just like a demo account. Learn about the VIX before you just jump into them.
100%.
And what better source than what you guys are providing here at CBOE?
Yeah. The Options Institute here at CBOE, they do a great job, and our marketing team and communications putting everything out in a way that, some sites can be a little, and look, trading itself can be intimidating, so to make it sometimes out of the gate, less is more, but then we have obviously plenty of data and information, data sets too, like we're building out new futures data sets to help people understand who's participating in the market and when,
Okay.
to help them, am I trading against paper? Am I trading against cash? Like it was in the pit.
Kind of like commitment of traders, where you'll be able to break it down that way too, a
By
commercial
customer
use.
code, yeah. So we've got
Yeah.
CFD
Good
trade
question.
summary data, just future summary data that came out that people are starting to access. Even clearing firms do it for risk, just to see when their traders are trading, and maybe look at when they shouldn't be trading, right? Which is probably this afternoon during the Fed.
And it might be a few out trades tomorrow morning.
Yeah, you think? Yeah.
Are there still out trades? I remember seeing guys lose their seats over them.
No, not like it used to be, Coach. But
All right.
That was.
That's one good thing I'm glad is gone.
Well, but it was constructive chaos. I don't know how we did it, but we walked through in the old mid-am room, right? Like where that little room was, and that's where the out trade room would be. And I'd have my long card, and it's yeah.
Do you still go to the Sign of the Trader after work, or to Lou Mitchell's for breakfast? Huh?
Series?
Yeah. Anyway,
what happens in TGH stays in TGH.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
anyway, it's only video.
Right now, right?
Can I ask
anyway,
one more
I
question?
don't know.
Yeah.
Danny, what circumstance would you think that would maybe the VIX being at 30 would be some sort of anomaly these days? What would think that, consider what we've seen, and I don't know where I come up with this number 30, maybe 25. I know it's 23 and a half.
I know. You look at numbers long enough during the day, it's just kind of.
You know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So where was that? Where was that? I don't. What you know what I mean? And it's happened.
The range. I think we built a range, Mike, that is healthy for this market, and we're not just like it's been between 9 plus or minus to obviously we had that spike at the beginning of COVID up to 82 or just shy of 82, but we've kind of settled in this range that it's kind of like S&Ps between 4,000 and
it's 3,000,
which is nice, but those are big ranges. But we've had some big ranges, but we haven't had those moves that have spooked the market, and it's staying with the market makers that we have in there, holding things to where people can be confident getting in VIX futures is key. And I work with market makers on a daily basis and talk to them about what they're looking at. And
amazing.
If you look at mini VIX, for a smaller product across every month, it's about a tick wide pretty much.
Any of those guys trading the futures and then trading VIX options with strategies?
There are. It just depends on how experienced they are, Coach. But which is, I think it's just it takes time, but it's helpful for traders like that. Like I said before, we're starting to see as this ecosystem builds out, other people trading across exchange products like E-minis and mini Dow, where it's all correlated, right? So it's which is great to see, because I think that's healthy for the overall global market.
All right,
and obviously you need a futures account to trade these.
Sure, and the margins aren't crazy on the minis; they're like around 1,000, and depending on your clearing firm, they usually give you 4 to 5 times leverage
Right.
there. And then the bigs are, and it's all on our website, are just north of 10,000. So, you know, it's not an arm and a leg to participate. And if it helps you protect other positions, you know, as we know, it's worth, you know, it's worth.
Always
I like that
protection.
I like that the leverage isn't too high.
No, right.
I mean, there are
Sure.
products, you know, 10 to 1 and, you know, overseas. I don't even want to talk about
All
the
right.
digits.
So, I mean, we have Danny on here and we have the site that Danny showed, the CB.com tradable. We have Coach, we have myself. So let's get into some live trades, if you will, or post some trades
That'd be great,
through
Mike.
TradeView Markets, because we have Danny, we have the demo, if you will, and we have everything to have. So
Nice,
this is what we
Mike.
came for. John, you there?
Everyone could see your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am here. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, on top here, we do have the quote board and the symbol lookup like we discussed. And, you know, just what you guys were touching on here, the initial margin, you know, Danny said is, you know, it is 1/10. So it is $1,177 to get into one mini VIX. And then there is a day margin after that. Mike, I'll let you kind of take over with what you want to do and explain about the market movement right now.
Well, appreciate that. Well, as I said, we're learning as we're going, and that's why we have Danny. So, I mean, for me, the time to, and Danny, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but this is at least my theory, what I've learned over the years. If building positions, positions and trades are completely two different things. The number one thing you never want to do as a trader, and I hope no one begs to differ, is have your trades turn into long-term positions, which usually means they're a loser. Is that correct?
Yeah. I keep getting flat. You know, we always used to say, like, you know, KGF, just keep getting flat intraday. The more flat you are, I'm guessing that at the end of the day, your P&L is normally up, right?
It is, but
I like
right.
that. Keep getting
No,
flat.
it's like that. And listen, we have 100 years of experience between us. It's literally the number one rule. If you can't trade, you don't have capital.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is from at least it's just like any other entity. I don't care if it's Apple, if it's the VIX, you know, whether it's going to be a trade or a long-term position, the VIX offers both of that. So like I've even learning here that the VXM has a more responsive move, but we're going to give an example now about trading the VIX minis. John, you want to place a share? Let's buy one contract of the VIX minis. We have everything you could see here is working orders or completed orders. On the left, we have our account summary top. It's just like buying a new car. To me, I was actually not even joking. It was literally came out of my mouth, and I apologize if I'm being dramatic. This is trading porn to me. If you gave me this, I could not wait to set it. It's almost like Weird Science, setting up my ideal wife. You know what I mean?
By the way, Mike, I like your play getting long instead of short, with Sprues up 60 heading into a Fed announcement. I think that's a good play being long here.
Well, no, well, listen, the time
Those
to
are
play
pretty
VIX,
tight spreads too.
Yeah, well,
Danny.
right. Yeah, they're all tick, and it's nickel. We trade nickel, so it's you know, you like to call it a tick wide right now. So everything's front month's always a tick wide. I mean, obviously things widen before and right after a Fed announcement, but other big data points. But it stays. When I say wide, I only mean a couple ticks too. It's not like things gap. We've got a lot of steady market makers in there to provide liquidity for our participants.
no, like I said, the way I would trade the VIX is either one of two ways, in my opinion. Please correct me if I'm wrong. This is the day to trade it, because whenever you have extremes, you want to be, in my opinion. And by the way, this is advanced, and you know, let's go back to this disclaimer. In wide extremes, you need hedges, because at wide extremes, you're probably going to be on the other side of the market, including a hedge fund like myself, in one area. So you always want to be hedged on a major extreme. On the opposite side, on a position with the VIX, I like to take the VIX in a position wise for me, because it is a trending product. I like to build it over time, because as your positions go up and incrementally, that's the same reason why you should be hedging, in my opinion. So the VIX on a position wise generally is something like I would buy a mini here. depending on, my time frame today would definitely be a short one, because as the market, like as Danny says, up 60 plus handles, you certainly either want to be selling or be hedged, if not both. So am I articulating that correct, Danny?
Correct.
Yeah, so this is, anytime, this is why we're on here. I don't know if it was coincidence we made it Fed Day, but this is a time, especially through the demo, especially with Danny has articulated, where you definitely want to be trading and getting familiar with the product, whether on a long or short term, because within the next 24, and Danny said at the beginning, to 78 hours, as things kind of settle and take the right way, this is a product you definitely want to get.
Yeah, and you've been pretty
get to know.
long for a while, Mike, since
I am. I bought some
June
VIX this morning.
21st
I wasn't
low.
placating anybody. I told everybody this
Yeah.
morning I bought some.
Yeah.
It's the time to
No.
do it.
Yeah. No,
Anything to add, Danny, on that? Did anybody
no,
get
that's,
the demo?
no, it's good. I mean, it's good. I think that, like, with volatility in general, and any spread or position you're putting on in any product right now, I mean, with how things are whipping around and moving, I mean, take the profit when it's there. It's risk management too, right?
Right.
I mean, you can get in and out of positions. I mean, as you build up, it gives you more confidence. Coach mentioned at the beginning of this segment, with younger traders, younger participants. I mean, you got to dip your toe in the water to kind of feel if it's warm or cold, but you also got to, walk before you run. And as you trade and get involved in the markets, we all know this, you start to see the markets differently and on a daily basis when you're in it. But if you're in it too fast and furious, sometimes it's hard to see things in front of you. So
Absolutely.
I like to build up positions slowly
Yeah.
and get a feel for what's going on. And then you can build, it's like anything. So that's
Okay. Well, Danny, they tell us we're taught to be patient with the market, but not taught that we need to be patient with ourselves. And, you talk about new traders. I've done a lot of interviews, and I asked people how long it took them to make a breakthrough so that, it could be a living for them. And the average answer is about 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's bumps and bruises that we've all had, right? I mean,
Well, I want to say something for anybody for who's listening.
Yeah.
If you're not, this is a viable and a usable financial instrument. And for anybody, myself included, not to be hypocritical, that doesn't learn about this, that's viable 24 hours with low margin, with low cap, is already at a disadvantage. And quite honestly, for not to be dramatic, should be embarrassed if they don't get to know it. And they have no edge. And what?
Yeah, the edge. They're giving up an edge.
If you're not able
appreciate
to,
that.
that's, I'm not making it.
Because
People ask, what's your edge? Now people could say VIX futures.
Well, especially what's going on, we've got Ukraine, Russia. I mean, there's so much geopolitical news. There's monetary policy. I mean, there's so much going on that it just it can protect other positions that you have on to help you sustain that impact from the overall market. That if you didn't have it, you might get squeezed out too early or too fast. So it's just and the fact that you have access to this overnight, and it's a pretty straightforward product in regards to if X happens, Y happens, then it's like, I agree. I mean, it's important to understand it, and at the very least be looking at it for signals.
Well, this is
Mike, anything you want to wrap it with?
Yes, it is. If anybody has any questions on TGH going forward, it's a financial instrument. Everybody knows I use the VIX. I'm going to be more proficient in the VIX futures for the very reason why we mentioned this whole webcast. So as everybody knows, we'll have answers. We have every advantage to give you to learn how to trade this product properly. We have Danny at our disposal. We have his site where you can go back and watch the replay here. We have our demo accounts. We have coach. We have us articulating, right or wrong, at least to go from there every day on how to trade this vehicle. And like I said, if you don't get to know it, or at least know how to play the order, you're at a disadvantage. I don't care if we're talking about whatever instrument. This is a viable one that I'm using and everybody else should know about. So just like we say in TGH, have a plan and get to know it. And that's all. We'll leave it at that.
And none of us want to collect from our fire insurance on our house. So at times that, it's okay to be wrong, VIX, if you're, 90% long. Okay. And Danny, I have to say this. First of all, thank you very much for
We
being here
appreciate it.
today.
Don,
Thank you. You guys.
And I really think that the CBOE is fortunate to have an ambassador like you for their product that has all this market knowledge and can communicate it, that has lived it and breathed it. And I knew after 5 minutes that that's something that you bring to the table.
Danny,
So-
you probably forgotten more than most people know down there, but I
Yeah,
appreciate that. as
So
well.
they're lucky to have you,
I
bro.
hope to have you on again. Thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
and
again.
John,
Thanks.
thanks for lining this up. Mike, thanks for
Appreciate it,
co-hosting
guys.
with me. Jason, thank you, the whole team. And Danny, good hunting into
Trade
the
well.
Fed, buddy.
Thanks,
Everyone.
guys. You
Thanks,
too.
guys.
All right.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Adios.